You know the song, The Wreck of the Edmund Fitzgerald, the story of the giant freighter lost on Lake Superior in a killer storm back in 1975 is an absolute legend. But what if I told you the popular story is missing some seriously spooky, lesser known fact? Let's get ready to sail the past, because we're diving into the hidden history of the mighty Fitz. You know the wreckage of Edmund Fitzgerald is legally protected as a gravesite underneath Canadian law, which has severely restricted access. Despite this, significant recovery took place in 1995. The ship's original bronze bell was retrieved and replaced by a replica engraved with the names of 29 lost men. A remotely operated vehicle filmed the body of crewmen near the shattered bow, still relatively preserved due to the cold, deep waters of Lake Superior, and wearing a life jacket and overalls. Out of respect to the families, the remains were left undistributed and the location is now off limits. According to the tragedy, both he and several other crew members had been planning to retire once the ship's season had concluded. The voyage of the Edmund Fitzgerald was originally a bonus run that Captain McSorley reported to add a necessary bonus for his wife's cancer care. According to the tragedy, both he and several other crew members had been planning to retire once the shop. First, let's talk about the ship itself. The Fitzgerald wasn't just a workhorse. It was built in 1958. This was the absolute pride of America. Fitzgerald's launch day back in 1958 was plagued with bad omens, some leading to call the ship cursed before it even left the dock. It took 3 tries for the sponsor's wife, Mrs. Fitzgerald, to break the champagne bottle on the bow. The ship's release was delayed for 36 minutes because the keel blocks wouldn't release. And when it finally launched sideways, it created a massive wave that drenched the spectators and slammed the ship into a pier. Signs of a troubled life on water, maybe? Final trip in November 1975 was supposed to be a week earlier, but Captain McSorley, a veteran of 45 years on the lakes, tackled one more load of pellets. Why? The author, John U. Bacon, writes that McSorley took this extra trip for a bonus he needed to help pay his wife's escalating medical bills. Tragically, at least 6 members on the final voyage, including the captain, were planning to retire after this season. It was going to be their last tour. The pressure to deliver, the financial need, and the storm brewing, a heartbreaking combination. We all know this storm was large, but we may not know why Lake Superior's waves are dangerously large. On the open ocean, saltwater waves are blunted and spread out, but on the Great Lakes, the waves are sharper and pointier, often described as mountain ranges rather than a rolling hill. Crucially, they're twice as close together, 4 to 8 seconds apart compared to 10 to 16 on the ocean. The Fitzgerald was 729 feet long. This close frequency of waves meant it could be perched with its bow on one wave and its stern on the other, leaving the heavy 126-ton middle section completely unsupported. The stress is a major theory for why the ship fractured so suddenly. One final strange twist. The haunting folk ballad that immortalised the Fitzgerald, written by Gordon Lightfoot, was a total fluke. Lightfoot had finished all the songs he'd booked studio time for, but had an hour left. He grabbed some notes, took a stab at turning the tragedy into a sea shanty, and recorded it like the very first take. The version you hear on the radio today is that single, spontaneous recording. No redos, just instant history.
Oh, yeah bro, the ship bro was once out on the water, and then it sunk.
The mystery of the Edmund Fitzgerald lives on. A giant of the water, lost without a single distress call, taking all 29 crewmen with it. It changed safety forever, but the question of exactly how it happened remains unsolved. What's your theory? Rogue wave? Faulty hatches? Or did she bottom out on a shoal? Let us know in the comments. Don't forget to like and subscribe for more deep dives into... This is one pure marine folklore, but it's chilling nevertheless. Many Great Lake sailors believe in the third mate's cure. The legend states that if the ship's mate dies on board, their ghost will haunt the vessel, causing bad luck and eventually leading to its demise. On the Fitzgerald's very first voyage in 1958, third mate Merrill, McSorley, suffered a fatal heart attack while out on duty. Some believe his restless spirit remained on the ship, a silent, spiritual passenger, until his final tragic voyage. Coincidence or a ghostly hairbringer of doom? You decide. While row waves gets a lot of attention, one lesser known theory points towards a fundamental design flaw. The Fitzgerald was built with an internal false bottom to create space. This design, common for its era, meant the hull was effectively 2 layers thick in places, but the space between them could become flooded without detection. Some marine architects theorised that water slowly accumulating in this false bottom could have gradually made the ship unstable, especially in heavy seas, leading to this catastrophic structural failure before any visible damage. It's like a secret leak, slowly draining from the ship inside out, completely hidden from the crew. It is perhaps the most bewildering aspect of the entire tragedy. Despite facing hurricane-force winds and monstrous waves, the Edmund Fitzgerald sent no distress signal, no mayday, no SOS. The last communication with Captain McSorley's chilling final words to the nearby Arthur M. Anderson were holding our own. The fact that a ship of this size could vanish so utterly, so suddenly, with no desperate cry for help, suggests an instantaneous and catastrophic event. It wasn't a slow sinking, where the crew had time to react. It was an abrupt, complete obliteration that left no time for even a single panic radio call. The silence is what haunts so many of us, making the mystery even deeper. Decades after the sinking in 1995, the Fitzgerald's brass bell was recovered from the lakebed in a remarkable dive expedition, but what happened next is incredibly poignant. The original bell was replaced with a replica engraved with the names of all 29 lost crewmen, placed back on the wreck as a permanent memorial. The original bell now resides at the Great Lakes Shipwreck Museum at Whitefish Point, Michigan, serving as a powerful, tangible link to the tragedy. Every year, on November 10th, during the museum's memorial ceremony, the bell is rung 29 times, one for each man lost, plus a final 30th ring for all mariners who have perished on the Great Lakes. The Arthur M. Anderson was the last ship to have visual, radar and contact with the Fitzgerald, but what really emphasised it is just how close the Anderson itself came to disaster. The Anderson was right behind the Fitzgerald, battling the same monstrous storm. Captain Bernie Cooper of the Anderson navigated his ship through waves so massive they were breaking over the pilot house, at times losing radio contact as his vessel was completely swamped. After the Fitzgerald vanished, the Anderson, battered and bruised, then ordered by the Coast Guard to turn back into the storm to search for survivors. It was a heroic, nearly suicidal mission for the crew that had just narrowly escaped death themselves. The Anderson's crew's bravery and their ordeal overshadowed, but they were true heroes of a terrible night. We know the Fitzgerald was carrying 26,000 tons of pellets, iron ore, but here's the lesser known details: how the cargo was secured, or rather not secured, might have sealed her fate. The pellets are essentially small heavy rocks, and standard practice at the time was to not secure them with the hold. As the ship and pitch rolled violently through the storm, the massive loads of pellets could have shifted even slightly, causing the ship to loose uncontrollably. This sudden heavy shift of cargo, known as a free surface effect, is one of the quickest ways to flip or stress a ship breaking point, offering a perfect explanation for the lack of mayday call. Back in 1969, the Fitzgerald was cut in half and a new 120-foot section added to her middle, making her the longest ship in the lake at 729 feet. Sounds like a good idea, right? Maybe not. The lengthening significantly increased her cargo capacity, but drastically altered the way her hull handled stress, particularly a forced hogging and sagging. Here's the secret. Ship experts found evidence that the Fitzgerald suffered multiple poorly repaired cracks in the years after the lengthening. It is possible the intense flexing during the 1975 storm simply exploited these existing weakening points in the steel, leading to a rapid catastrophic hull failure. She was a giant, but maybe she was also structurally compromised. The official search effort focused on finding survivors, but the Coast Guard's role afterwards had always been controversial among sailors. The official investigation concluded that the ship sank due to faulty hatch covers, allowing massive amounts of water to flood during the cargo and reduce its buoyancy, however blaming the crew for not securing the hatches properly. However, the Lake Carriers Association, made up of shipping companies, disagreed, arguing the sinking was caused by structural failure or This is a hidden conflict. The Coast Guard's conclusion placed the blame on a ship's operator or crew, while the industry pointed at an act of nature or structural defect. The controversy around this final report continues to fuel the mystery to this day. There you have it, a full spectrum of hidden facts from ghostly warnings to the controversial design flaws to the heartbreaking silence of her final moments. The Edmund Fitzgerald remains a legend because it holds a lesson. Even the mightiest creation of man is no match for the true fury of Lake Superior.